I think you can take a snapshot in time, maybe a 1 or 2 year period, looking at some standard moving average levels and see if the stock actually reflects that it relies on those. You know, if you find
Welcome back, traders and investors. We have a special guest on the line, Howard Lindzon. He is the co-founder and CEO of StockTwits. Howard, how are you doing this morning?
Not bad, thanks.
Yeah, so how was Stocktoberfest? Give us some of the highlights.
Well, we had kind of the peek into people's thoughts for the next year, and seems like as usual for the last 5 years, Apple and Google were a topic of conversation. We have, a lot of guys from our community talking about, I call it chart art, but, relative strength, technical strategies, and then a lot of people from the fintech community showing off new financial products.
What kind of new financial products are out there? What did you see that was really cool there, Howard?
Well, right now it seems to be a lot of mobile brokerage thinking. First there's Wealthfront, which has raised, now close to $100 million. And they're focused on very simple, low-cost portfolio theory for 401ks. So whether it's a rollover or starting your first account, they're focused on, really making it simple for the investor through ETFs and very mobile-friendly. And then on the other end of the spectrum, Robinhood, very focused on, getting a quick brokerage account set up through your mobile phone and then zero commission trades. So been tried in the past, but now in the mobile generation, this is the first big one being tried. All these companies are well capitalized. And then on the private company side and the public company side, you had Y Charts, which is, very modern. On one end, Yahoo Finance, in a very modern kind of terminal product, which is focused on Cap IQ, Bloomberg market, Reuters Icon market. So there's, from a very lightweight HTML approach to, a terminal for the financial web. And then there was DataFox, which is, I would compare it to a Yahoo Finance for private companies, but obviously very modern, very light, very push-friendly, meaning, set and forget, do your research, create tear sheets, get alerts on your phone. So very much more of a push generation, obviously, because of a mobile phone.
Howard, I got a question for you on the overall sentiment, what you felt out there, because lots of huge traders out there, lots of very influential traders out there, and lots of great traders out there. What was the sentiment towards the markets here? Like, we've come back, we've bounced back from these Ebola lows here. We're only 1% off of the highs. Was everybody mainly bullish out there, or was there caution out there, Howard? What did you feel there in the 3 days out there at Stocktoberfest?
It's generally we cater to a world that, if they show up, they're pretty optimistic. We're not, the community itself, sentiment-wise, has been bullish for 5 years.
Right.
Overwhelmingly, based on, the data that we have. So I think if you show up at a show like Stocktoberfest to listen into, what young people are thinking about the future, it's extremely bullish. Very light on the macro. Gregor McDonald touched in on, the energy transition to the grid. That's about as negative as it got, but that was negative, on not on the overall market, just on how our energy consumption patterns are changing. But pretty optimistic crowd. I don't use the term bullish or bearish. I would just say it was. It's a crowd that understands the risks of the market and was very optimistic.
Tell us about a little bit about the history of StockTwits. What inspired you to start it, and a little bit of the background of StockTwits.
In 2007, I discovered or started using Twitter. And my first impression of Twitter, as today, same people have the same impression, is that I didn't really understand why I would use it, tell people what I'm doing, because that's what the box asks you. But it felt like a great way to talk about stocks because it was light, it was simple, it was broadcast. And so that's what I started doing. And people responded to that. And, the old theory is nobody talks about stocks. Everybody does it privately. And it kind of blew that thesis out the window and said, if I'm willing to do it, I got to believe thousands of other people are willing to do it. And so StockTwits was born. And from a history perspective, it started out as a Twitter, built on top of Twitter. We came up with a way to organize the data by using $ ticker. But by the end of 2008, we realized that it wouldn't work if we just built it on top of Twitter. So we raised money, invested in our own platform, and in March 2009, we launched StockTwits based on our own platform. Now today, flash forward to 2014, 90% of the messages that originate on all the messages originate on StockTwits, but about 90% of them just stay on StockTwits. So it's really its own community. It's sauce, or it's data, or it's is super interesting because people are only talking about stocks. It's a very focused crowd, so between the market hours, everybody's just talking about the market. And that makes it different than any other kind of communication product out there. People are there to discuss things happening in the market and tickers in general. And so it's a really, really interesting slice of life.
What are your thoughts on social media in general here? Obviously, Twitter and Facebook just reported earnings here. The stocks got smacked around a little bit there. They're still trying to figure out the best way to monetize, obviously, all their traffic that they get. What are your thoughts here first on social media and the best ways to monetize it, Howard?
Well, I think when these companies started, there was, they're very focused on ads because the size of the market, they're global companies. But I think as we continue to progress and people spend less time on the web and more time with their phones face down, because of push, there'll become a lot of pressure on these networks. As older people living in a phone down world where they set and forget and expect to get alerts. Google now, Apple will have an Apple Mail product where the data just gets sent to them and their phone pings when something important happens. And that's really going to change how these networks work. And so I think obviously a lot of nervousness. These companies have huge expectations around them. Some of it their fault, most of it Wall Street's fault. And it'll be interesting. I'm very bullish on the networks. Very hard to measure what they're really worth, but I really can't predict how they're all going to, monetize at the scale they're at yet. But I don't think I don't think anybody knows how valuable these companies are, and that's why they're so volatile, and that's why they're valued so high. But, there's plenty of ways to monetize, but right now it's advertising, and for the foreseeable future, it seems like it will be advertising, native advertising. But I think as we get to the push world, these companies will be forced to come up with more interesting, lightweight ways to monetize. And I think that's probably the transition that we're going to start to see this year and next year as push becomes more important than flipping and pulling and engaging in your phone.
Okay, Howard, having a little problems hearing you here. I don't know if it's our live stream here. Yeah,
technical difficulties, I think, on our end, Howard. But just going back into StockTwits itself, and I know you guys have some indicators on there, sentiment indicators that you put on there in the last year. How do those sentiment indicators work, Howard?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, well, actually, we hear you better now.
Perfect.
Yep.
Thank you, Howard.
The sentiment indicators, we don't really discuss the full thing. I mean, generally how they work is people can tag bullish or bearish, and natural language processing around how on the words themselves. But we have different algorithms for removing certain behavior, etc. So it's just a little bit of computer and it's a little bit of human reading. And like any sentiment measure, there's so many false positives. So it's just one measure of many. But it's resoundingly been bullish, and most people think use sentiment as contrary indicator. But my opinion and thoughts around sentiment are when you get a focused group or wisdom of a certain crowd together, that it means quite the opposite. It means you should be listening to that crowd. And I think on StockTwits, we've proven that. It's like the bullish people are not to be faded. They've been right. So I think another part of the StockTwits sentiment is how quick people will change their mind. I mean, it's that type of crowd that likes to peek around the corner, so we're quick to change our mind as well. And so you have to be very careful using our sentiment because long term it's just been very bullish, and that won't change completely overnight. And so you've got to factor that in.
Okay, we're on with Howard Lindzon. He's the co-founder and CEO of StockTwits on Benzinga's Pre-Market Prep, brought to you by Charles Schwab. Question coming from a novice investor, Rob Hood. And his question is, how do you differentiate StockTwits from the mainstream media? Should you just pick who you follow very, very carefully?
Yeah, I think, mainstream media is one way, so it's very engaging. You turn on the TV, you read the newspaper. It's hard to figure out who's giving you that advice. Very little context because they never have read that person before, or if you do read them, you still don't know them. I think in the social world, it only takes about 10, 15 tweets to kind of figure out what type of person that is, what their biases are. StockTwits, it's pretty easy to figure out what type of biases people have. And it's really just about it's like I look at it as bicycle riding, the Peloton. Everybody's got to create their own Peloton. You've got to find people that can slipshot you forward. So you're trying to find people that can help progress you and push you forward. And so you build a stream of people that really are, and against what most previous thinking was, are people that add value and open your mind, but also people that fit your risk profile, people that share good ideas that help you make money. And in the end, the decision should be yours, and you need to live within your own risk profile. But with the stream situation, you can pick people that share good ideas and have a tendency to project or help catapult you forward. And so it's much easier to build a stream there and then ignore the rest of the noise that comes with the media.
Sheldon McIntyre is in the chat here. He's asking you, does StockTwits have any plans to expand their platform into different languages?
That's a good question. It's a very American phenomenon right now, North American phenomenon. Stocks is a very, the topic of stocks is pretty North American phenomenon, but I think it's just a matter of time, What makes it difficult around certain countries is, numerics instead of tickers, and then, getting the data as well. And, the hobby of stocks is a very American thing. In London, binary options type investing, I would call gambling, is more the norm. And the markets just aren't involved as much in other countries. In Japan, where they're more involved, it's a much different language around companies and tickers. So I think eventually we will get there, but right now we have more than enough demand in the United States. We're only a small team, so no, we don't have international.
Okay, just a real question. I know you used to have your Wall Street video there. Were there any favorite or any highlights from that you'd like to tell us about? And also, what about the future of video? Is that something you're perhaps looking to incorporate into StockTwits?
Yeah, very bullish on video. Not bullish on creating content just because it's very unscalable. And text and communication and links for finance seems to be, you've got people, you can get the filings so immediately from Edgar, and reading is the fastest way to disseminate this stuff. Machines read. So for context, video can matter, but what are the odds that someone great can really create and produce and share good, consistent video content? So I'm bullish on video for the web, not so much bullish for financial video. I am bullish. We are working on a few app ideas for video, but it's more around created content, just like a message for the stream, not created by StockTwits itself, but by the community.
Okay, we've had Howard Lindzon on the line. He's the co-founder and CEO of StockTwits, joining us after a busy Stocktoberfest. Howard, thanks for joining us and talking about StockTwits, and we hope we can have you on again.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Okay.
Thanks, Howard.